For thousands of years, humanity has sought answers to some of the deepest questions of existence. Why do evil and suffering exist? Why must we face trials, loss, and difficult times? Many people have searched for an answer. Some have claimed that evil is an enemy force that must be destroyed. Others that it is merely the absence of light. Yet there is a deeper understanding that can completely transform the way we see life. Perhaps until now we have seen only one part of reality. We have believed that there are only two forces, light and darkness, good and evil, creation and destruction. But an ancient teaching reveals something that very few have understood. There is a third force that belongs neither to good nor evil, neither to light nor darkness, because it stands above them both. The ancients called it the higher law, the intelligence that uses both the forces of light and the forces of darkness to achieve a greater purpose. The evolution of consciousness. This is the revelation. Good and evil are not the supreme principles of the universe, but instruments, forces, and movements operating within a higher intelligence. To understand this third force, however, we must first change our idea of what we call evil. Humanity's great mistake has been to believe that everything that causes pain is our enemy, when very often what transforms us most first appears as a difficulty. Throughout my life, I have observed a constant tendency in people. When something gives them pleasure, they call it good. When it causes them suffering, they call it bad. Yet this way of thinking is limited, because the same force can produce different effects depending on the level of consciousness of the person receiving it. A child may taste a bitter medicine and think it is dreadful, even though that same medicine may save their life. Was the medicine bad then? No. The problem was that the child did not understand its purpose. The same is true of many of the forces at work in our lives. A person may suffer a loss and believe that life is against them. Years later, however, they may discover that the experience awakened an inner strength they would never have developed otherwise. They may discover a patience they did not possess, an intelligence they did not know they had, or a strength that had lain dormant within them. They then understand something essential. Not everything that comes to break down a structure comes to destroy us. Some things come to transform an old version of ourselves. I want to share with you a law that is present throughout nature. Good and evil do not always appear separately. Very often one is contained within the other. Think of a piece of fruit. When you eat it, you receive nutrients, energy, and elements that are necessary to sustain life. Your body does not retain everything, however. It selects, transforms, and eliminates. Why? Because life requires a constant process of renewal. It must accept some things and reject others, build and destroy, absorb and purify. Does that mean everything the body eliminates was entirely useless? No, it was part of the process. Without that separation, life could not continue. This is a great teaching. Every transformation contains an element of destruction. A seed must break open to become a tree. Food must be broken down inside the body to be transformed into energy. In the same way, an old identity must disappear so that a new consciousness can be born. In ancient times, human beings looked upon nature with fear. When a storm broke out, they were terrified. When lightning struck, they believed an evil force was at work. When a river swept away their land, they saw only destruction. When a wild animal appeared, they regarded it as an enemy. Everything capable of disrupting their existence was considered evil. Over time, however, a new intelligence emerged. Human beings began to ask themselves, what if, instead of fighting these forces, I learned to understand their laws? A transformation then took place. Fire ceased to be merely a destructive force and became a tool. Water ceased to be only a threat and became a source of energy. The wind ceased to be a wild force and became a source of movement. Nature had not changed. Human consciousness had. This is one of the most important laws. Evolution does not consist in destroying the forces around us, but in understanding them. Consider the example of the snake. To many people, venom represents something negative because a small amount can end a life. They therefore claim that venom is evil. But nature is far more complex. Some animals are able to withstand that very same venom, and for them the substance does not possess the same destructive power. We must therefore ask ourselves, has the force changed? No. What has changed is the capacity of the being confronted by it. This teaching is fundamental because we often suffer not only because of what we encounter, but because we have not yet developed the strength required to deal with it. A weak person faced with a powerful energy may be destroyed by it. An evolved person, however, can learn to use that very same energy. The spiritual path, therefore, does not consist merely in removing whatever challenges us, but in strengthening ourselves until it no longer has power over us. If we observe the universe closely, we discover that everything operates through polarities. There is not only expansion, there is also contraction. There is not only activity, there is also rest. There is not only birth, there is also death. Nature does not eliminate opposites, it uses them. Our own bodies work in this way. We breathe in and we breathe out. If we only breathed in, we would die. If we only breathed out, we would die as well. Life requires both movements. That is why I say that good and evil are two movements within a greater reality. The problem arises when we believe that one of them must disappear completely, because when we eliminate one polarity, we destroy the balance. For centuries, human beings have studied the body, but very few have noticed the symbolic teaching contained in the blood. Arterial blood, rich in oxygen, bright and life-giving, carries nourishment to every cell. After fulfilling its purpose, however, it changes. It grows darker and carries away what must be eliminated. If we observed only that stage, we might think that this blood was bad, but we would be mistaken because it is fulfilling an essential function. It must return, be purified, and begin the cycle anew. We then understand that there is no good blood and bad blood. There are two necessary stages within the same process. The same is true of life, of our experiences, and of the forces of the universe. Now we can ask the great question: if there are two forces, good and evil, who directs their movement? Two opposing forces require a law to maintain their balance. Here we find the revelation. There is a third force, the higher law. It is an intelligence that belongs neither to light nor to darkness, but uses both to drive evolution. It is neither an intermediate force nor a mixture of the other two. It is a higher level of consciousness. It is like a master who knows every tool, a musician who understands every sound, or an architect who comprehends all the forces required to raise a building. The third force does not fight darkness. It understands its purpose. Nor does it reject light, because it understands its purpose as well. Both are part of a far greater work. When you understand this law, your relationship with problems changes. You no longer ask only, "Why is this happening to me?" You begin to ask, "What strength is this trying to develop within me?" A difficulty may be teaching you patience. Opposition may be strengthening your character. A loss may be revealing what truly matters. This does not mean that we should seek suffering. It means understanding that even our most difficult experiences may contain a lesson. The unconscious person is destroyed by the forces of life. The conscious person learns from them. The wise person learns to use them. Now we can understand the true teaching. Good and evil are not the masters of existence, but the servants of a greater law. They are two forces taking part in a higher evolution. Above them both exists a third reality, the higher law, the intelligence that uses light and darkness to bring about growth. When human beings live trapped in duality, they ask, "Is this good or bad?" When they awaken to a higher consciousness, they begin to ask, "What place does this occupy within the greater order of life?" That change in perspective transforms everything. We cease to be victims of the forces around us and begin to understand them. The greatest freedom does not lie in removing every difficult force from our lives, but in attaining a level of consciousness at which no force can dominate us. For whoever understands the higher law also understands a profound truth. Nothing in the universe exists by accident. Everything fulfills a purpose within a far greater intelligence.